goodness, what a play!
Fumble the ball, and Denver has recovered. Oh, my!
Dempsey kicks, it's on the way! It is! Good! It's good!
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions!
Oh, he caught it! Oh! Unbelievable!
All right, here we go. What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of the FOMfanatics podcast. I'm Jam. That's Commish. We are live, and we're ready to talk some football. Week 1 is behind us. How you feeling?
Well, I'm a little confused. We're talking football because I thought we were going to be talking basketball, food, dieting, general nerdery. In fact, my prime story here was I have a shoe.
You have a shoe.
There's nothing special about it. You know, it's a shoe. Got some holes in it. I use it to do anything remotely athletic, and it goes on my foot. So
that's a good topic to bring up in the chat and talk endlessly about it. I don't know why I'm saying I'm fully participating in all these endless conversations that are not football related. But you know what, Phil? Not everything is football.
It's
Sometimes
true. I can't complain too much because, well, the FOMFA chat is going off in like oddly bro-ish directions until Magic cards came up, and that took a sharp turn. But at least the Ben Wyatt chat is more up my alley because it's football, politics, and Hamilton talk. Like, I can't complain about any of that.
Basketball playoffs are on right now, so that's leading a little bit of the discussion. I think we've got bigger basketball fans in FOMFA than in Ben Wyatt.
That's true. And I get it's the playoffs. I get I don't care, but it still is something that, you know, it makes sense to be talking about. But shoes? Come on, Dave.
When do we start talking about shoes?
David posted a picture of a new shoe that he got.
Oh, that's what that... I was wondering for a minute, where's Phil going with the shoe thing?
No, apparently we have a lot of shoe fans. At least 4 or 5 people were chiming in on shoes. So
yeah, well, sneakerheads is like a big thing. Like I was shocked to find out what a big thing it was. I think actually David for a while collected and sold sneakers.
Yeah, I know people do this. I just don't get it. It may be the part of wardrobe. Like, I've never cared much for wardrobe, obviously, but if there's one thing I care the least about, it's shoes.
Yeah, my shoe game was about there for a while. I picked it up, but it was very much because my dress shoe. It was all dress shoes, and my dress shoes are just terrible. So I went hard on the dress shoe game for a bit. For work. In terms of sneakers, I've never quite understood the sneaker collection thing. It's a huge thing. There's tons of NBA players that have like rooms and rooms dedicated to sneakers, which they never wear, of course, which I find endlessly frustrating and strange.
Yeah, the most confusing thing to me about this is that shoes are like the one thing that you have to wear them a lot before they're remotely comfortable. Every other piece of clothing is fine. You can wear it and like immediately you're good. Shoes, you need to wear them before they're comfortable. And if you wear them that long, they're not going to look like like none of it makes sense to me.
That's what I never quite got about. Hey, try these shoes on in the store, see how they feel. Like, they feel terrible, like all shoes do at the beginning. What am I supposed to do with this information? I guess they feel less terrible than other ones.
That's what you're looking for. Yeah. A little less terrible.
We did get quite a bit into the dietary supplements, and I will say I have ordered this product, and we'll give my own review as we go through. But yeah. I was involved in that conversation, so I can't hate on it too much.
Yeah, you know my issues. My issues aren't so much someone who just genuinely doesn't care about this, because I've gone through phases where I care a little more. The last couple of days I've been exercising where it's just been like, I'm going to have over a 3-hour block, 15 minutes bouts of exercise. So I get an hour a day, which is significant. And as long as it's only like 15 minutes, so it doesn't matter too much. And I'm doing all right with it. But my biggest gripe with all of this is, I think it's all just like bullshit, because I've found over and over, it's just calories in, calories out is what matters if you're trying to lose weight. And all these things that it's like, oh yeah, don't eat processed foods, eat vegetables and meat. It's like, yeah, you know what you're doing? You're having filling foods that are high in fiber and low in calories. You don't need to stick to this special diet. you're just sort of doing it as an aside by accident.
Well, I disagree, but I mean, if the goal is straight up weight loss, then yes, of course, calories in, calories out. And if you do something like intermittent fasting or anything like that, it's lowering the opportunity to put in calories in your body because you don't eat, your eating window is lower. But I don't know. I've done a lot of reading and research into intermittent fasting from people that have written reports about it, and I believe in the other benefits. But of course, it's hard to say because you see results and you're like, oh, it's because of that. But what's it going to be, right? Like you could just be that you lowered your rates. I feel this is a bit much. Insulins are important in my view, but
is this Chris that's claiming our phones are spying on every single thing we're doing?
Yeah, yes, yeah. It is that Chris.
Got it.
It's the Chris we trusted with setting our lines. So you'll notice, Phil, that I'm not wearing my patented Eagles hat today. I just wanted to represent and respect Joe Burrow for a phenomenal losing effort performance as his first, not start, but because he already had
this is week 2.
But like, you know what I mean? Like it was a game where he got to let loose a bit. Get a couple of
touchdowns. Game, second game, you know, it's I'm sure there's some pressure there.
Yeah, he looked cool. He looked calm. He looked collected. He made a couple mistakes, but like not nearly as much as you'd think.
No, like I think coming out of college, it was expected he'd be pretty polished, and I think he looked what I would expect him to look like. More polished than a typical rookie. Still making a few mistakes, but the Browns' defense also isn't something to get too excited about looking good against. The best thing he looked at. My words are failing me. The best he looked all night, I found, was the one pass to T. Higgins, where Higgins had someone like right behind him and like a few yards in front of him, and Burrow found like the exact small window needed.
Put that into that window. Yeah,
that looked good.
He did have a couple throws that I felt just needed to be completed. Like he had a touchdown pass to Boyd that Boyd just didn't catch.
Yeah, that wasn't on Burrows.
And he had one to the one that was a little bit across AJ Green's body. Like, you know, that could have been thrown better, but that's also a pass I thought that AJ Green would be able to catch. And there was also one I think somewhere in an end zone pass to AJ Green. I can't recall which one, but it was also one of these things like he should have made that. He should have made that catch.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Boyd's drop in the end zone, I don't think there were really any key mistakes I noticed on offense for the Bengals. There's one specific guard they have who's just terrible. I forget his name, but if you watch, you can see he keeps failing over and over. Might be one of the worst in the league.
Holy shit.
But other than that, their offense looked fairly reasonable to me. Their defense was abysmal.
Oh my God.
Like
they could not stop. Even when they got to the runners, they couldn't tackle them. No. Like they look like they've never tackled before. They were just like, grab a leg, grab something, hold on. They're just like, holy shit.
This isn't new. Like the Bengals revamped their defense a bit, but they were near the bottom, if not the bottom in the league in broken tackles like last year. Their defense has no idea how to tackle, and it's seems to be continuing into this season.
Well, I like the Bengals. Last year, I barely got to see them because I was watching Red Zone, and they were almost never in it.
They are never in the Red Zone.
So when you're watching Bengals games on Red Zone, unless you specifically switch to the Bengals game, which I did on the odd occasion because I'm like, I got a bunch of Bengals. What the fuck is going on? Like, I barely see them. They were just getting. They were not making their way into the Red Zone. I think the biggest mistake that Burrow made was that weird timeout where he called the super late timeout at the exact same time his guy was snapping.
Yeah, that
I feel like it's like just
luck, I think.
I think he had the right idea to call the timeout because he didn't like what he was seeing and he wanted to set up and do something different. But it was just he made that decision too late.
I'm curious how the snap happened because typically
doesn't he need the quarterback?
The is waiting for a signal from the center or the center waiting for a signal from the quarterback. Now, in theory, you're thinking, okay, well, I guess the center was waiting and it's like, well, clock's down, better snap it. But I've never seen any team do that before. So the most common or the most likely outcome, I think, was that in calling a timeout, there's probably some confusion that the center thought that whatever Burrow was doing to try to get the attention all timeout was the snap the ball signal. And that just sort of failed.
Well, good for him. He at least jumped on it. It could have just been a quick 6 real easy. And ended up being a good game. Not really down to the wire, but a close game in terms of scoring. If they had any semblance of defense, they could have won that game. But looking forward to big things. All right, that's enough Burrows talk. Let's hand it right back over. There we go. That feels more comfortable.
It should.
So, what do you want to get into first? Should we talk week 1 results?
Let's go over what happened last week before we get into any sort of projections and what changed.
Sounds good. Let me pull it up. I think I had it, but it's closed on me here.
Looks like you've got a FOMFA logo in the corner at the moment, so I guess we're starting with that.
Let's go FOMFA. Let's start. Do you got the games in front of you?
Well, I'm looking at the weekly results, but it doesn't tell me who played who, which is not ideal.
I thought there was a way that you could see the actual...
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Okay, live. Nope, that's from this week.
Weekly summary? This will...
No, it doesn't tell you who played who, though.
Yeah, it doesn't. What the hell?
There's clearly a way of doing this, but we just don't know it.
Yeah. Okay. I got it. Week schedule. Yeah, schedule shows it. Okay. So do you want to start with what's the first game on your end? Because I just see my first game.
Hookers versus Clown Punchers.
Hookers versus Clown Punchers. All right. So Clown Punchers came out with the win on this one. Pretty decisive win as well. What did you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, it was a game that going into it we were expecting to be a close one, and I think it was a combination of FF Village just underperforming, Jayville overperforming. I don't think the difference between these teams is like 35 points or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still, while I'm speaking about this, I'm like, I can't look at player performances in the screen, so where can
There's definitely a way to do this. We've done
there has to be a way to do this.
Well, we've done this before. We did this all of last year. We showed all the players and showed the bench and showed, what points were left.
We are not prepared at all.
We are not at all. We did, to be completely fair, we did kind of rush into this podcast, and that's my fault because this is the most ideal time for me to do it this week. God damn it! Where is this?
We can't really even talk it until we find it, right? So
live scoring is reset to the next.
Yeah, you can't put it back to the old thing. Anyone who's watching, care to help us out? Move on.
Does anyone know how to do this? How to show it? Because I know it's there because we've seen it. We used this last year every week. It's not weekly summary. It's not. What the hell?
It's not live scoring summary. It's not. We've found it's not the fantasy schedule by week because that's showing us the results, but not the individual things.
Yeah.
This is
frustrating.
This is very frustrating.
Points allowed by positions. Live scoring summary? No.
Under franchise weekly results. I got it.
Perfect. Franchise.
I don't know why it's under franchise because this is every team. It should have been under the
the worst website, by the way. It continues to be the worst website. It's so hard to navigate. All right.
Well, now that I can actually see who's on the teams of these guys. It's like Keenan Allen, bad game. AJ Green, not a great game. This is for the hookers here.
Mm-hmm.
Cohen, you would expect. Mark Ingram was the biggest disappointment in them.
Yeah.
The general thinking, and I definitely believe this, and I'm still curious how it's going to play out, but the thinking was that Mark Ingram starts the year still as a starter. Dobbins might get a few carries here and there, and maybe over the year it changes up a little. But Ingram came away from this with 29 rushing yards in a 38-6 victory.
And like a beatdown.
And Ingram he didn't do anything. So like the best news for Derek here, I think, was the performance of Patrick Queen. First game in, comes away with a sack, 4 tackles, forced fumble. Great start for the rookie linebacker. And I think going forward, he's going to get more performance out of Allen. Ingram isn't going to be this bad going forward. So I think
it's still so bizarre to me that that's the way that it ended up, because it was a blowout. You'd expect that Mark Ingram would have punched it in a few times, but is his role changing?
Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see based on this week. The first week could be an aberration.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of uncertainty with some of the running backs around the league right now, and I think Ingram's one of them. On the other side of things, I mean, Thielen did really well for Jayville. Good that signing worked out for him.
Earning that money.
OJ Howard, the second tight end for Tampa Bay, coming away with 12.5 points. Now, in and of itself, it's not too surprising. I mean, Brady's always liked throwing to tight ends. But I'm more appreciative of the ballsiness to start him. But then again, I'm looking at his other tight end.
Yeah, what are his options?
Never mind. But yeah, this was a good game for him. Getting 23 points out of CJ Henderson, that is huge.
Yeah.
Rookie coming up with a pick with 5 tackles, 3 passes defended. Great game for him. So, good win for Jayville. The key thing here, though, is also efficiency rating. I think those are a good thing to have a sense of. Is this as good as I'm going to get? Is this way beyond expectations? You'll notice that Jayville's rating is almost 94%. I think it was the league this week. And that means that there's not a lot of going up from here. This was essentially, your team is doing about as well as you can expect. Whereas,
this is a very good game for this team.
Yeah, exactly. It was a well-set lineup. The team itself performed well, whereas Derek only managed a 74% rating. Mm-hmm. So, and the ratings are sort of a combination of things, because on one hand, you're looking at how your bench did relative to your starters, but on the other hand, it's not just about setting the lineup, which is what people will take out of this, but it's also showing how much your starters underperformed. If your starters underperform badly, you're going to have a lower efficiency. And if they perform really well, you're going to have a higher efficiency. So looking at the difference here, I think it sort of shows what happened.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see some regression in opposite directions for both these teams.
Yeah, I mean, the big decisions would have been kind of Burrow versus Trubisky, which is a tough one. I probably would have gone Trubisky. Well, I mean, just bad. No, but in the first game,
it doesn't matter. Trubisky is really, really bad. Also, again, this was week 1, wasn't it?
It was week 1. Yeah.
But yeah, Trubisky is just awful. He's just awful as a quarterback. Whereas Burrow, even though he's a rookie, rookies have been doing well lately, and he's one of the more, if not most, polished rookies to come out in a long time. So I think this was if you talk to Derek, I bet it wasn't even a choice. I think it was just Burrow's going in.
I feel like if it was me making that decision, I would have made the very tough decision to start Trubisky just because of the rookie jitters. But I don't know, actually. I really don't know. Once it came down to actually clicking the checkbox next to Trubisky, I think I'd get kind of freaked out and then go back to Burrow. Sammy Watkins being the other one that had a really big game versus who he started. Keenan Allen, he's going to start for sure. AJ Green for sure. So I guess it comes down to Anthony Miller versus Sammy Watkins in that decision.
And Anthony Miller had himself a good game.
Yeah, so it's not bad.
So that's not even going to be a decision going forward. But interestingly enough, the Burrow-Trubisky thing, even after last week where Trubisky did a lot better, Burrow was still recommended going into this week by 73% of experts.
Yeah.
I can't look back at week 2, or week 1, I don't think. I can only look at...
You can look back at week 1.
For a who should I start situation?
Oh, for who? I don't know about who should I start.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking on Fantasy Pros, and it's Burrow is a clear option here.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next game, we have Sandwich and Wario, and I have a coworker bugging me about things, but I will deal with that later. The stupid Hamilton thing, Jam.
Who's bugging you?
Ben.
All right.
So here's what is confusing to me about this game. I mean, Sandwich lost. I don't think that they're too shocked by that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Chris will be extremely shocked that he scored 190 points, trying to lose this season.
Yeah.
But I look at his lineup, and there's one thing that I just can't fathom. JJ are the White Sox.
Yeah.
I don't care who your other options are. None of them did a lot better.
His other options are Antonio Brown, who's a free agent, Chris Conley, Rashad Higgins, Auden Tate. Like, this is not a good. There are not a lot of good choices here. No. I think he went with a bunch of Eagles are hurt or banged up.
Yeah, I suppose, but if I guess he's not an Eagles fan, because if you are, during the preseason last year, it was also like, oh yeah, he's looking good. Season starts, no one even looks at him. This is exactly what happened here. He was on the field, but he certainly wasn't going to get any catches. So Wario came away with a victory here. Good week for their team, not dominant, but still impressive. 206 points. Overall, sort of a team effort. No one on the team scored more than 20 points, and he still ended up with over 200. That's rare.
Yeah.
There are some people who didn't show up. Ngakoue got 0. That's surprising. Jordan Howard, no one expects him to do all that much. He got 6.7, but I guess people expected him to at least be the main ball carrier for Miami. Or if not him, Matt Breida. But instead it was, I don't even know the guy's name, but some other guy who got picked up off waivers.
Oh, yeah. That was weird.
Nick Chubb only had 4 points last week, but he came through yesterday, so, I mean, that's good for him. But other than that, everyone was pretty much in the 10 to 20 zone. Mm-hmm. Even Cordero Patterson at kick returner, where we don't expect a lot of points, 11 points from 14 points out of punter Cam Johnston.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, really taking advantage of all the Eagles' sacks there with the punter. His safeties really showed up well. McDougald, McLeod, Tracy Walker, all of them over 10 points. So I think this is a really good sign for Doug, because it's one thing to get a high score when you have one guy who just sort of really goes off. It's like, yeah, okay. But you can't count on that every week. But if you have guys getting 10 to 15 points, and you're getting a lot of that, that's something good to be consistent from week to week. So
you get consistency across the board and are able to cover if a player just shits the bed. You're not so uber dependent on a couple star performances, which can go the other way, as we saw with AJ Green, who got targeted a lot, but 5 points, right? So this is solid, and both had pretty similar efficiency ratings. You're the sandwich at 89%. Wario at 86%, so no real decisions that they're going to kick themselves over. I guess you've got Matt Milano on the bench for Wario scoring the most at 15.5, but do you his linebackers did fine, right? So you can't really.
Yeah, no. I mean, Jawan Bentley is a curious choice at starting. But that said, I mean, I don't know if I would have actually started Milano. I probably would have started Jamie Collins and regretted it. So
yeah, exactly. So it's I mean, this is the game, right? it's fantasy football. You're going to make wrong decisions every single week.
Now on Chris's side, other than some crazy games out of 30 points out of Janoris Jenkins, which is not going to be repeated, I think things are. Gardner Minshew looked really good.
Yeah, real good.
He was 19 of 20 in terms of passes or something.
Yeah,
a lot of passes. The Jags largely just sort of ran the ball in a surprising win, but Minshew looked good out there. Malcolm Brown looking like the main running back in Los Angeles.
It seems like that's going to continue. He murdered.
And we've talked about J.K. Dobbins already. I bet Chris wasn't expecting production this early.
Yeah.
So, I guess the other thing is he traded for Hawkinson a week or two ago, I guess. And, a good start for Hawkinson. Caught a touchdown on 5 receptions. That's, for a tight end, that's good production. So, there's some positives coming out of Chris's week 1 here.
Good year 2, week 1 of year 2 productions for both of the top tight ends from last year's rookie draft, Hawkinson and Noah Fant. Both had big games. Noah Fant had a huge game.
Yeah.
So
now the opposite of the Wario effect is what Turret Rocks did to beat you. They basically got almost the same points. They were literally 0.84 difference between Wario and Turret Rocks.
Yeah.
But where Wario got it by having a bunch of people do well, Turt Rocks got a combined almost 70 points out of Lamar Jackson and Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
And neither of those are things where you're like, oh, who is this guy? Why is he performing well?
Exactly, yeah.
You're not going to get that out of Devontae Adams all season. You might get that out of Lamar Jackson all season.
Yeah. He did last year.
I think what the best news for Mark in this win is largely the performance of Will Fuller. When watching the Houston game, it was evident that Cooks is not the number one option.
Yeah. That was the big question coming in from the offseason is who's it going to be? And I think Cooks is still a little banged up, as a shocker. Cooks is banged up. But
Fuller is permanently banged up as a player. But I guess like that to that point, that's exactly the question. I mean, no one has questioned when Will Fuller is playing that. He'll probably do pretty well out there. He's always looked good. It's just it's not a question of if he gets injured. It's just when. He gets injured. So week one, looking good. Will Fuller catching 8 passes for 112 yards. Can't knock that. But other than that, and those Lamar Jackson and Devontae Adams, there's a lot of disappointment here, I think. Like, there aren't a lot of players who scored more than 10 points on this run. Yeah. Evan Engram only got like 2.6 points.
Yeah, which was crazy. If you actually watch that game, it was literally like he was just not catching passes, dropping passes. Like, he was targeted a lot. Just couldn't make anything of it.
I think that Mark is going to be excited that Benny Snell got more carries than expected. He was on Mark's bench this week. But it's key because I think Mark was expecting Phillip Lindsay to maybe sort of split carries with Gordon and do all right. He did not do all right.
He also got hurt, I think, right?
Did he?
I think he got hurt, but he wasn't doing all that well.
Yeah, he wasn't doing the great. And yeah, he's out this week, so you are correct on that. Marlon Mack gone for the season, so Mark's already depleted running back core has gotten even more depleted. So he's going to really count on Benny Snell to step up.
Yeah, and maybe Joshua Kelly, who had a nice debut.
The other thing that he should maybe be doing is shopping around Cam Newton.
Right, yeah.
Someone is going to. Well, actually, I don't even know if someone will overpay for Cam Newton because who needs a quarterback at this point? I got Drew Brees for like a 5th and a 6th round pick because the market everyone is selling off.
Everyone's got their QBs. They've got their QBs.
Everyone's got their QBs. There's like 4 teams that are trying to sell them, and I think I was the only one who's like, I'll give you something, but I'm not going to give you anything of value. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah. It really comes down to if someone's quarterback gets hurt or someone's quarterback's really shitting the bed and not for a team that is trying to go for it. Because the contract is $13 million, which isn't the best, but it's not horrible. Like this $20 million, those $20 million contracts plus for a quarterback. So you can probably maneuver that, but yeah, it really comes down to need, and I don't think there's a need right now amongst a lot of teams.
So it didn't impact your loss here. No. Why did you start Jared Goff over Matt Ryan?
I don't know. I think I was just throwing a dart. I saw that he had the higher projected by very marginal. I won't do that again because they're clearly well. Also, like they have so many receivers. I thought maybe they wouldn't be so run heavy. Like they no longer have Todd Gurley, and I thought they'd kind of go back to spreading it around to 3 receivers where Jared Goff performed well. But they went hard on the run game. So that seems to be the approach.
Yeah, Matt Ryan is usually considered like somewhere around the 6th to 8th running or quarterback drafted, sometimes even like 5th. Jared Goff is like around 16 to 20. So they're not even in the same class here. So he's not seeing a start again until bye week. Your defense really showed up.
Yeah, surprisingly.
I mean, we'll see if you can maybe flip some of these guys for anything of value, because I know you don't really care if they show up or not. But I think the biggest disappointment for you has to be that what we just talked about with Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks did fucking nothing. I think your biggest hope here was that he came out of the gate huge, and all of a sudden that bad contract is like, oh, that looks reasonable.
Could still happen. Not over yet.
I mean, one game under his belt, getting 3.4 fantasy points, 2 receptions for 20 yards.
Yeah.
That reminds me a lot of last year where it's like he just disappeared. Where the hell did he go?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. On the other end, I mean, like I know what my team is. I'm going to be watching young players do what they do. I like my defense, and I like that a lot of the defense, like a couple of them were big performances from young players that I plan to keep long term. I'm hoping to see more out of Brian Burns going forward, but Montez Sweat had a nice game. Jeremy Chin, first game of his career, not bad. I think Kyle Full. I think my approach is going to be starting more on the cornerback side because with the team this bad, my only hope is just home run plays and cornerbacks get interceptions. So maybe that'll be a kind of all or nothing kind of move. But yeah, I mean, look who I've got. It's not gonna be a good year. I already know that.
All right, so I've been taking the lead on most of these so far. What are your thoughts on the Cobras Marines game?
Cobras Marines was one that I thought would be really, really neck and neck, and it ended up being a pretty close game, even potential points wise and starter points wise. Both of these teams kind of realized the opportunity that was there once both myself and Chris decided to rebuild. Wild card was wide open. I made moves with both these teams, and they made moves with others. I think this is, as we've seen in previous years, this is kind of the time for Cobras to get their wins because, as with past teams, the depth is going to be a huge issue, and that hurt them pretty bad in the second half of the season. But very, very, very interesting and strong performances. I mean, the Russell Wilson move worked out great for him. Russell Wilson had a massive game. Derrick Henry didn't have a Derrick Henry type from last year type game, but still put up 16 points.
Yeah, the elite running backs aren't going to be amazing every game.
Yeah. But I mean, 16 points,
rushing yards. He just didn't score.
Yeah, you'll take that. I mean, Hayden Hurst didn't have a great debut, but I expect that hopefully will get better for him. But yeah, I think this was a pretty neck and neck game. Pretty much all throughout. Marines starting Ben Roethlisberger over Baker Mayfield was a great call, like a huge point differential there. Sony Michel did what you would think Sony Michel would do, but then again, what are his other choices? His running back situation isn't great. That's why he made that move. Chris Carson, Sony Michel. Robbie Anderson had a nice game. I regretted not starting him in the other league, but like you said, that's kind of a home run play type player, right? Like, is he going to get the deep ball? Is it going to be a lot of deep balls?
Yeah, if I recall, his touchdown was like a 70-yard.
Oh yeah, it was a monster.
That out, and he's got 5 catches for like 40 yards without a touchdown or something. So that's a pretty key thing to this story.
I think Marines. I was surprised he didn't start Corey Davis.
Were you?
Yeah.
Corey Davis is going undrafted in a lot of leagues.
Corey Davis is going to have a monster, with A.J. Brown now out. Corey Davis is going to start feasting.
Maybe, but I would just encourage you to look at A.J. Brown wasn't out in week 1.
That's true.
Look at last season. Corey Davis was bad. Like, just
he's their number 2 still, though, right?
He is, but
I guess they run a lot too.
Thrown to. So we'll see if it changes. He's had unlimited opportunities and squandered them all. So we'll see if this is any different. But I was going to say that's an interesting one for Steven, that maybe he's a late bloomer and maybe he's just showing up. If I was Steven, I would be shopping him immediately because I have no faith after everything I've seen. Someone I have more faith in that showed up for Steven was Laviska Shenault.
Yeah, nice game for Laviska Shenault.
Yeah, he was looking good on the field. These sort of like big, tough receivers have been doing well in the NFL lately. I mean, he only caught 3 catches, but if you watched any of that game when he was getting the ball, he looked good doing it. Mm-hmm. Now, the interesting thing to me here is on the other side of things, this game could have been much closer because Colorado's punter scored 0.
Yeah, that's the difference right there. My God, that is the difference. I don't know
if that means Indianapolis has another punter that I'm unaware of, or they didn't punt the entire game.
They totally punted. They looked like the game they were having, they were definitely punting.
All right. Well, I was looking in the subtotal. It's not like he kicked for a certain yardage and got 0. He just didn't kick.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
They probably changed their punter. I have to assume they changed their punter.
I have to assume so too. Time to do some Googling here.
I do think overall Marines probably needs a bit of wide receiver help.
He is their punter.
What they didn't punt? They got murdered.
I have no idea. I guess not.
Maybe what was Philip Rivers just giving the ball away a lot, so they didn't have to punt?
That's a distinct possibility. But if he had just gotten a regular punter score, this would have been within a couple of points.
Yeah. But look at that, 193 to 203. It's a very close game for two teams. An important win for Marines too, because it's over a divisional rival. It'll be interesting to see how these guys perform moving forward. I mean, this week I'm playing Marines, which is basically a win at this point. So it's going to be really interesting to watch.
Now, the key thing that I think Israel's got to watch out for here is James Conner did very poorly, and
now he's hurt, I believe.
And Snell was getting the bulk of the carries. So he doesn't have any depth. That leaves him with just Henry and Jones, and then that's it. If it's a bye week,
when we say not any depth, like literally, those are running backs. Yeah, those three.
And it's not like he has a lot of cap room or anything to sign people. His roster is under the 38-man limit, specifically because he's at his salary cap. So this has sort of been a common thing for Israel in recent years. Some high-end talent, but then nothing behind it. Yeah. So he's got to really hope that all the team just holds up and doesn't get hurt. And I guess we'll see if that happens.
And once you get to bye weeks, like I think he's lost a couple of games. Yeah, I remember him losing some games.
He started out reasonably strong, and then the bye weeks came, and it was that was it for him.
Ooh, look at that. Bodes well for my Ben Wyatt team. 4 years, $68 million. It's going to piss off Allen Robinson even more. I like that. I like Robert Woods. Okay, moving on to what's the next game here?
Death Valley and Lucas.
Death Valley and Lucas. Both teams that are rebuilding, essentially. But Lucas put up some points for a rebuilding team, mostly on the backs of Aaron Rodgers having a monster game.
Darius Slayton also came through with an impressive 25 points.
I like Darius Slayton, man. He's looking good.
Yeah, he's someone that I wish I'd have invested in a little more. In a lot of my drafts, I didn't trust him. All the Giants receivers were going pretty late, and I just had this fear of like, who the hell is the number one? Like Slayton came into the situation just by injury last year.
Yeah,
but they're going to get Sterling Shepard back. They're getting Golden Tate back. Like, if everyone is healthy, I don't know how the targets are distributed. So I just stayed the hell away from all the Giants. But Slayton was looking good in that game. So I think that's a good key piece for Luis going forward.
Yeah, he ended the year pretty strong too last year. Like he's on a roll. Like I think that he's got to be coming close to being their top option.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too, and I wasn't sort of expecting that. Well, I wasn't sure what to expect, but yeah, he's definitely been looking good. I think Tate definitely is the sort of wide receiver out in this situation because Sterling Shepard watching the game also looked pretty good.
Yeah, looked good.
But I don't remember seeing much of Tate, so I think he's sort of done. I mean, he did not look good with Philly, and he's now getting pushed out in New York. On Death Valley side, I mean, led by Jamison Crowder and his 21-point effort. This is exactly what sort of I was expecting with the Jets, that Jamison Crowder is their number one receiver.
Yeah.
Is he worth his stupid contract? No, not even close, but he's still going to get you decent points from week to week. Drew Brees came through with an average game.
Yeah.
Now he doesn't have Michael Thomas, but Death Valley also doesn't have Drew Brees. So
yeah, and Cam Akers, everyone was expecting to be, or not. Maybe not everyone was expecting, but I thought he would have more of a role in the game. It looks like that went to Malcolm Brown, who looked very good. So don't know what that says about Cam Akers moving forward, at least this year.
Yeah, Akers was, I think I mentioned at some other point, out of all the rookie running backs, he's the one that I had sort of the least hope for. He had the most opportunity, I felt, but at the same time, it worried me that I never heard any good news coming out of camp about him, because usually you hear nothing but good news about absolutely everyone. It doesn't matter how bad they are. You'll hear something good about them. I didn't hear anything about Akers. And I guess he did not have a good camp because they trusted Malcolm Brown with the majority of the carries. DeAndre Swift also on that team, 8 rushing yards, 3 catches for 15 yards. He was sort of saved by a touchdown.
Could have had 2. Could have had the game winner.
It's true. Detroit was really trusting Adrian Peterson with most of their work. He got 93 rushing yards. So
who Luis started. So
yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I think what I'm going to call here, and who knows what happens with rookies, but my belief is that Cam Akers is going to end up being the bust of the running backs this year. And I think Swift will go on to have a useful but not elite career. He'll be one of those sort of like second round running backs year to year that, is a nice pickup for you, but you're not like really, really trying to get.
Now, do you think that's because of DeAndre Swift's situation?
I mean, I like Swift as a runner. I just think that the Lions are going to ruin him. Now, I don't think it's as bad as other people do. That's what I'm saying. I think he'll be fine. But that's it. I think he'll be fine. I don't think he'll ever be really good because, Lions.
Yeah. I mean, Death Valley, like if you look at the overalls, Death Valley and Lucas are both teams that are in a bit of a rebuild. But Luis is going to end up scoring fairly well, I think. Like maybe not enough to compete in your division, but I think he'll get wins. And Death Valley's kind of on the train that I'm on.
I sort of look at this the opposite, to be honest. I mean, until Death Valley traded Breeze, so now he's stuck starting Dwayne Haskins week after week, whether he likes it or not. I mean, he had some hope. As much as I've trashed his running backs, there's hope there. Odell Beckham, Jamison Crowder, Jarvis Landry.
Good receivers, yeah.
But, like, there's some talent here. You look at Luis's side, and there's no one anyone would want to start other than, Rodgers had a great game, but he's not an elite option anymore. Maybe he goes back to it. And Slayton looked good. But if you actually looked at these guys going into this game, and I know we didn't figure out who won our projections, but I'm pretty sure I would have thought that Death Valley was going to win this one.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking at these players here. Yeah, that the comparators are rough. He's got Chase Young, who had a nice game. Yeah. And Darius Slayton, I like a lot.
Season, in fact. I mean, he's not going to keep playing the Eagles every week.
Yeah. Let's see if there's anyone. Oh, he had MVS on the bench, but who's going to start MVS? Well, he had a nice game, but who's going to start MVS?
Well, maybe someone who's starting James. I'm assuming James Proche was the kick returner.
Yeah, I think so. Anyways, it is what it is. See what I think you and Jason have some easy wins coming your way.
Well, speaking of me and Jason,
game of the week. This is a nail biter.
Yeah, I'll let you do the breakdown on this one.
Well, it's always interesting when we have a game that has has a line of -2. Was that you favored by -2 on Chris's lines? I think
I was favored by 2. Yeah. So, and I picked me to win. So even though I won the game, I did not win.
This was an up and down game, man. Like some big performances that went your way, but some performances that hurt you. And similarly for Cloud to Ground, efficiency wise, it's good. I think good news for you in a sense where your efficiency rating was quite a bit lower than Jason's. Jason's at 92%. You're at 82%.
I think this sort of speaks to the teams themselves. The view that I've had going into the season is that everyone healthy, no one on buys. Our teams are going to be very competitive. Like, I don't know who is the better team. I do know I have a hell of a lot more depth than Jason.
Yes, yeah, and you can see that, and I think because of that, you'll almost like you'll probably regularly have an efficiency rating in this range, just because it's
Otherwise.
yeah, because with depth that's the issue, right? Is the guys on your bench could go off. Like you didn't start Dallas Goedert, who had a monster game, but that's because you're starting Mark Andrews, who had a monster game. So like almost identical games, actually. Dallas Goedert had 21.07. What's that one?
Dallas Goedert was better by 0.01.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, our game was so close. That might have been the difference.
Yeah, it could have been. That would have been so funny. But yeah, very interesting. A huge game for Calvin Ridley. Which was needed because your receivers in general did not do anything. Christian Kirk with 1 point, Cooper Kupp with 6.8, and Terry McLaurin with 9.2 in a game that was high scoring, so that's a little disappointing. Saquon had not a very Saquon-ish game, and this was the very interesting part because it really came down to Saquon having a couple extra runs or putting up a couple extra yards, which eventually sealed the win. But it was a damn close game, especially considering Claude DeGrand had some big performances.
Yeah, I'm not particularly worried about Terry McLaurin. He was covered by Darius Slay. I didn't want to start him. I just was put into this situation when Miles Sanders and what's the best Kenny Golladay were both injured. So I was like, okay, I guess these guys are going in. But really, I'm actually pretty proud of myself this week because there were certain players that didn't perform as like Nyheim Hines only got 2.4 on the kick returns. Well, Agnew was getting 8.2. I was thinking of starting Agnew. I made the wrong call there. And theoretically, I should have started Goddard over Christian Kirk, but I was never even really considering that.
Yeah.
Same with like Bridgewater over Wentz. That was not something I was ever considering.
Yeah, you can't be mad about that. I had the exact same issue in Ben Waffle.
But the other things where I was making actual like legitimate decisions, as much as I fucked up the kick returner one, I got the kicker right where Badgley got 11 and Blankenship got 8. The defensive ends, I started Garrett and Hubbard and put Josh Allen on the bench. That would have made the difference if I'd have got that wrong.
Yeah,
I benched my top safety. I benched Harrison Smith because I just like the matchups of Chuck Clark, Jalen Mills, and Jordan Poyer better. And again, it worked out. If I had gone with let's put Harrison Smith in instead of Chuck Clark, again, I would have lost this game. So I'm pretty happy with how that worked out for me. I know Jason was kicking himself for his Raider fandom saying start Ruggs, and in turn he left Marquise Brown on the bench.
Yeah.
And
Marquise Brown had a nice game, but not like a monster game. It would have done enough to beat you because there was such a small margin for error there. But I mean, yours is always going to be a game like this. Matchup will always be a game of inches, I think, because Cloud to Ground's got some big money players. Joe Mixon, if he did just a little bit more, wins him that game. So there's a lot of areas where he had big performances, he had bad performances, you had big performances and bad ones, and it just kind of rolled out this way. It's a big win though, because it's divisional rival. You get a win over Jason, who's coming after you. So until you meet again later on in the year, this could be the decisive win.
Yeah, no, I know the thing to do is be like, yeah, I'm not scared of him. But your team is legitimately good, and I was refreshing Wednesday for the scoring updates and being like, come on, because I was genuinely worried, and I was trying to find out, am I going to win? Is Jason going to win? Because me being up by 1.1 points or something, the scoring changes can easily get around that. That's recount territory.
Yeah. This was a good point too. Kittle being out. Kittle had had 7.9 points, barely playing. He was out pretty early in the game. If he was out before the game started, then Jason starts Jonnu Smith, who had a nice game. So
but I mean,
actually no, he probably starts Austin Hooper, who had a bad game.
The other interesting thing is if you remember the Saints game. At the end of it, when the Saints were easily winning, they threw a pass to Kamara and had him go into the end zone. I was like, some sort of bullshit play. Apparently, he stepped out with an inch to go or something.
He did. I remember that. I remember when we were watching that, it was like they came back and they were running the play, and I was like, holy shit.
That was the like when Josh Jacobs goes off for 3 touchdowns, it's like, yeah, this is annoying, but like fine. But when like the Saints are up by 1 million and can basically kneel out the game, and they're like, oh, let's put the Kamara to go in for.
Yeah,
that's a Bill Belichick move.
Very, very impressive game and very close, impressive win. We found out on the chat that not the closest win margin, but damn close to it.
Fourth
overall. Yeah. All right, so we'll move on to another very interesting and exciting game. It was between Ron Mexico and 100% Cotton. This was also a game that was supposed to be close because they were really going at each other, and it ended up being a pretty close game. Cotton pulling out the win by about 5 points. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I'm a little distracted by Jalen Richard's 0, but then I remember what happened with Ryan where he moved him to running back and everything. He's the kick returner getting 0, so that is what it is. The most interesting thing about this is the potential points for both these teams. 254,
monster.
6.8. Ryan came away with a victory, but David easily could have had it. The question is, like, did David make any decisions where it's like, that was dumb, you should have started this guy? And you can't really blame him for these things, I think. Linebacker, I mean, Kyle Van Noy had a good game, and I'm a little surprised he didn't start him over Neville Hewitt, but I'm not really blaming him for it. Ronnie Harrison is terrible, and him getting 0.
He's a second round pick. He's a second round pick worth, man.
That 0 is really, it's really going to kick David, given he had 2 corners that scored like 18 and 14.
Oh, wow. Yeah. How do you not start Stephon Gilmore after the year that he had? I know he's a corner, but he had a monster game, monster year last year, fantasy points wise.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Gilmore came out of the year with 6 interceptions, but even when he wasn't getting picks, like he has significant passes, defense, good tackle numbers. I mean, I think you start Gilmore, but David traded for Harrison. Why trade for this guy if you're not going to start him?
I guess so.
Now, that said, David was smart enough not to start him this week, apparently. So, with Ronnie Harrison now through 2 games, averaging a whopping 0.5 points.
Well, he also picked up, in a trade with me, got John Johnson. So
yeah, that is a much better option.
It helps with his choices. Big game for Josh Allen. I don't know if he'll continue to. He's a pretty good scoring QB though, because he can run as well. And he looked pretty good. He had a couple of those weird overthrows, but that's pretty
he's always going to have those.
Pretty Josh Allen. Nice game for Mozart. Nice game for Christian McCaffrey. Not a great game for Tyler Boyd. Better than expected game for John Brown.
Well, yeah, that's the interesting thing. I got John Brown in a lot of leagues just because he had a great season last year, and after they traded for Diggs, everyone just started ignoring him. But at a certain point in drafts, it's like, come on, you could have him or you're gonna have him or like Ruggs or something, and it's like take the guy who has performed and is the quarterback is used to, and that's what we saw. That he was largely Allen's primary target over Diggs. So going forward, he should get some points there, and David needs him to, because if he doesn't, David is fucked.
Yeah,
but Parker. I guess he traded him to you, so now he has a much, much better option, thankfully, in Tyler Lockett. But Michael Thomas, I don't know when the fuck he's coming back. I've seen from it'll be next week to several weeks, and
they haven't put him on IR, which is so bizarre.
I don't know why he's not on IR. I think it's going to be 4 to 5 weeks. If he comes back earlier, which not putting him on IR would suggest, I don't think that's a good thing. I think that he's going to re-injure himself. He's going to play like shit. I don't think David should want that.
Yeah.
On Ryan's side, he had a game similar to Wario, where he had a lot of performances from a lot of people. Gurley, David Johnson, both getting solid scores. Juju coming out with 22.8. I think that's what you want to see when you don't know how he's going to perform. He did that on the back of 2 touchdowns, though. He only had 6 catches. That's not not a good amount of catches, but it's not a ton of them, right? Robert Woods is always solid, coming through with 105 yards there. Jerome Baker. Now, from what I remember, Ryan made a trade of some linebacker for Jerome Baker. I don't even remember the linebacker, but at the time I was like, it's just pick whichever linebacker you like.
Yeah, I remember that.
Consider this a trade worth analyzing. That trade won Ryan this game.
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
So, yeah, that's Brett Kern, all-star puncher, killing it for Ryan as always. Ryan's team's looking good. I'm really impressed with what he did over this offseason because he came into the year and I looked at his roster. I was like, this looks like garbage. Like, I remember him asking about, like, oh, yeah, what would you want for your running backs? It's like, I don't want anything off your team. There's nothing here that I want a part of. And as much as I'm willing to bash Ryan's former team, now his team's looking good. He made a lot of good trades that helped him out. So yeah, this is good work, Ryan. I don't think we've seen the last of David, but I do think it's an uphill battle for him going forward.
Yeah, the injuries, like he was right in there in the in staying competitive, and it helps that he's got the easier game this week. Michael Thomas going down, that's and not having a whole lot of depth behind that's going to be tough.
All right, what's the next game? We got Fort Myers against Turned Down for What?
Yeah, and I think this went as expected. Turned Down for What, putting up 190 points, which is interesting because his direct competitors put up 213 and 219. So the battle in that division is real, and that's going to be a fun one to watch. Can't really say much about Fort Myers' team. You know what situation that he's in. I mean, you'd expect Devin Singletary to do a bit better, but this was always going to go this way. I think. I don't think anyone thought this was going to be a crazy close game. Any surprising performances or start decisions in your opinion?
I cut his ass because he had done nothing for me ever. And then he goes out and gets 16.5 points on 8 tackles and a sack in week 1. So, fuck him for that.
Yep.
What's more interesting to me looking into this game is the fact that Khalil is starting N'Keal Harry. And I look at his team and I'm like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But what it means is he doesn't have, a lot of the more elite of the league, they'll have, good players all starting. Whereas there's at least one position here, and it's literally this one because his running backs are insane. He went out and got more of them, but he can't start them. So, but he's counting on one of Harry, Brian Edwards, Van Jefferson, and James Washington. One of them doing something, and we'll see what happens. But it's still a big gamble for him, and it's going to probably drive him crazy week after week figuring out who to start there.
Yeah, I agree. I think because he's got all the running backs, there might be a move in play at some point, though he ended up making a trade for another running back and bringing Kareem Hunt in. But he needs the help he needs is at wide receiver.
Yeah, the tricky thing, though, is it's not like he can move running backs for wide receivers all that easily, because the only way that works is if there's a team who's contending with a lot of wide receivers and no running backs. And I realize I am speaking about Mark. So maybe
I was about to say there's a team doing exactly that, who's kind of threatened right now because the Cobras and Marines looked pretty good in their first game, and that division could be up for grabs.
Yeah, the big question is, what can Mark trade? He has some wide receivers, but he doesn't have a huge stash of them anymore. He started Rashad Perryman this week.
Okay.
Mike Evans was on his bench for some reason. I don't know. Cortland Sutton was injured, so you put Evans and Sutton into his lineup, and it takes out Jerry Jeudy and Perriman. But he still doesn't have the ability all that well to just trade a good receiver without losing something in his lineup. But it still might be worth it just to get some sort of running back because his running game is just terrible at the moment.
Yeah. He's got to do something.
The other thing, looking at Khalil's team that he should be happy about here, Jonathan Abram coming back off a big injury, coming through with 9 tackles out of the safety position.
Looking good.
That's big for him there.
Yeah, that's a guy that he picked last year, so that's a good sign to see.
And the counter to Mark starting Phillip Lindsay, who, as you mentioned, got injured. But, Melvin Gordon looking good in Denver, 78 rushing yards. He had a fumble, but, got a touchdown, looked pretty solid there.
Looked very good. Like when you were watching him, he looked very fluid, and it's like I think that job is his. Like it compounded on the injury, but like I felt like it would have been a lot of split carries to start the year. But by the time Phillip Lindsay comes back, I think it'll be Melvin Gordon's position.
Yeah. So that's everything from last week for this league. I think we had one trade. I guess we had a few more. Yeah, we had a couple of trades, actually. One of them, I think, happened just after we finished our last podcast, like at the very end of it.
Let me pull up transactions, see what happened here.
This was the one where Darius Leonard moving around again. Apparently no one wants the best defender in the game.
Just keeps moving. Where'd he go?
Number 32, if you're looking at transactions.
Number 32. Oh, yeah. So, 100% Cotton giving up Dwayne Haskins, Joe Bernard, Irv Smith, and Darius Leonard. And to Death Valley for Dak Prescott, Matt Breida, Kyle Juszczyk, and Michael Gallup.
Yeah, this one I've gone back and forth on. The valuable part of this deal is Darius Leonard.
Yeah.
I get why Ryan made the trade, though, because outside of Darius Leonard, he didn't really give anything up. And he has a lot of linebackers to cover for him, where he got a big QB upgrade, although I think less than some people. Like I have a lot of respect for Matt Stafford into this year. So I think it's nice to have those quarterbacks, but it was a nice to have. It's not really going to help him that much. Breida has a decent backup. Michael Gallup, I think, is still going to be good. I think going into the last week, I was thinking Ryan won this trade. But watching how Miami's using their running backs, I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets a lot more production out of his quarterback. Not sure Breida does much of anything. Gallup is a key get there. Juszczyk is meaningless. I don't want to worry about him. But Gallup is going to need to be re-signed. And the key thing is I thought that, Lamb will take some time to get used. He was utilized pretty early, and Gallup only actually got 5 targets. He got 3. Yeah. So I'm leaning more to now thinking that, it's got some hindsight involved, because at the time I understand why Ryan did this, but I'm thinking at this point I'm taking the red tails out of this trade. And that may be one of the first times I've said it. And he's been doing well lately, actually.
He's been doing well lately. He has been doing well.
With the trade with Chris Perkins, too. So.
Yeah, we can't hate on Chris as much anymore. I think he's actually pulled out some good trades recently. And I get why he would do this too. The big name in it is Darius Leonard, and you'd think that Ryan got what he needed. But that's a very good point in Miami, is that Ryan needs running back help, and that wasn't very good.
And we'll see if things change around. It's week 1. Who knows what happens there. Another trade that happened, some big names moving, Tyler Lockett from your team and John Johnson from your team, going for LaMichael Pirine, Devontae Parker, and a first-round pick. So ultimately, it's the first-round pick that presumably you're trading for. Pirine is kind of useless.
Yeah. I like him as a sleeper. Like I wanted him in the deal just because I was like, I'll take a shot at it. Assuming that there's problems with Bell would continue, and then he ended up getting put on injured reserve. But it seemed like he wasn't really meshing in that system. It's a very long shot, like a very, very deep.
Yeah, the odds of him hanging out are low.
Why not?
A free throw in, sure.
Why not?
Devontae Parker is, how many years did David give him?
2 years, I think.
Okay, so you're not too screwed by this, but. Yeah, this is a trade where everyone was saying that you made out like a bandit. I think the league undervalues Tyler Lockett tremendously. I don't get it.
Undervalue Tyler Lockett.
Lockett, when he was playing last year, he had a period before his he got hurt at some point. I'm looking at his stats, and I'm guessing it's around week 10. Because prior to that, he was among the top 5 receivers in the league.
Yeah.
Getting $20 million. I mean, he's 27. He's still got plenty of years left. I think he's going to be a great grab for David. Johnston didn't do really anything in week 1, but I still have a good amount of hope for him as a safety going forward. He's young enough. I think he'll come back. So the big question here is for David is like, okay, but both these guys were free agents. Why didn't you just get Tyler Lockett instead of Devontae Parker? Why did you give up a first? And
it's exactly what you said. A lot of people were sleeping on Tyler Lockett. Like this, David's not the only one who paid way more for wide receivers than I did.
But everyone else is trying to defend it. Like, oh yeah, Lockett is not that good. They're all wrong, but they're trying to defend it.
Yeah.
The way I see this, and I think I was mentioning this in the chat, is I think John Johnson is worth like an early third, basically on his own. So that first round pick, it's like, is the difference between Parker and Lockett worth going from an early third to a first, and a late first.
And a late first, yeah.
And I think that's a reasonable value. I think this trade probably made sense for both teams, although what's his face being out, Michael Thomas.
Yeah,
that is big, and but this pick may get a lot better for you. And at the same time, there's always a question of like, okay, well, if David knew that, would he have done this trade? And maybe not, but it is what it is. He's now the proud owner of Tyler Lockett. And actually, he did know that when he made it.
He knew MT was hurt, yeah.
He just thought for some reason briefly that he was going to come back like instantly, which was crazy. It's a high ankle sprain. But
like we didn't know the exact the severity of it. Like I think the news about it being more severe it's a high ankle sprain, so it's going to be severe.
That was what was confusing to me. It was a high ankle sprain, and throughout the whole thing, I've been saying he is not coming back. And like, I don't even know where the news came. It's like, oh, Michael Thomas hoping to play through. No, you're not playing through this. Put your ass on the bench for like 4 weeks and come back then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was happy with that. We've been talking for a while about getting Tyler Lockett on his team. With a couple different scenarios. Obviously, the problem being able to move money, and Devontae Parker getting hurt kind of motivated I was like, all right, well, if he's hurt or is threatened to be out for a bit longer, then you're essentially swapping to get a better wide receiver who's cheaper and younger, and it'll cost you first, but you also get a big upgrade at defensive back. So I thought it was a fair trade. Calculators backed me up, so I'm not looking to screw anyone over. But is it sprain starting? Maybe. Everything I've read has said that he probably will. It depends if he's healthy. Like he's been hurt.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the screen. I didn't know it came up on.
Oh,
what was the question?
It's Chris saying is it Perrine or Pirine?
The answer. It is definitely no.
I'm starting both of them. If he's healthy, I'm starting Frank Gore and LaMichael.
Really have much of a choice, so sure, but
it beats Gallman.
Next trade, I mean, you'll have to comment. I gave up a 5th and a 6th round pick for Drew Brees.
I think you covered this when you talked about it. The Drew Brees is a $16 million quarterback. Everybody already has their quarterbacks. It's basically Death Valley getting a couple of picks for a player he can't really use. That doesn't have that much demand. And for you, after watching what Wentz did in game 1, it gives you a bit of insurance.
Give me some insurance. And you're talking about like he couldn't use Breeze. Yeah. I can't use my 5th and 6th round picks. I will not keep that many rookie picks on my roster.
Yeah.
So it's basically like 2 things that neither of us are going to use, just swapping for things that we can use. So
I think it worked out fine. There's no other market for a quarterback right now, especially an expensive quarterback. Death Valley gets what he needs. You get what you need. It feels fair.
Yeah, I had a lot of people asking me after the Wentz game. It's like, hey, you want a quarterback? I'm like, yeah, I can have a quarterback, but I'm not going to give you anything of any real value.
Yeah, yeah. Like I know that we chatted briefly about Matt Ryan, but Drew Brees is cheaper. It makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, and I would have been happy getting Ryan, but like at least now it gives me some payroll room. Whereas if I had Ryan, I had like nothing left.
Yeah. The only other big trade would have been the Hokage and turn down for Watt trade that happened a little yesterday, day before yesterday.
Yeah,
Hokage giving up Kareem Hunt and Sammy Watkins for Nick Vigil, Keanu Neal, 2021 second-round draft pick from Ron Mexico, and a 2021 fourth-round draft pick from myself.
Yeah, I mean, I like Khalil's side on this because, well, Hunt is a free agent at the end of the year. So, he's not going to be able to extend him without franchising, which I doubt Hunt would, but maybe you do it depending on where he lands. Watkins, not really worth anything. I mean, he's making $14.5 million. So he got 7 catches this week. He's not going to do that again. But the reason I like this from Khalil's side is he gave up some bad contracts.
Yeah.
He only paid like a second, which I think is a decent value for a Kareem Hunt rental. It wouldn't surprise me if he then turns around and trades Kareem Hunt for something more useful to him again, like a receiver. But Nick Vigil, for some reason, is making $5.18 million through 2022. Nick Vigil. I don't know what to say beyond Nick Vigil because there's no reason this guy should be making this much money.
That changes things.
What changes things? Oh,
a 2-year extension. Yeah, I did hear that actually. Yeah.
Oh. So that they're just going to run with 2 running backs for. I mean, it's
worked out.
It's working.
Kind of hurts the value of both running backs.
Yeah, I mean, Hunt. It doesn't change things from this perspective because he was a rental anyway. It just means he's not going to be franchised most likely.
Yeah.
But the other, in addition to Nick Vigil being just like a terrible contract, Keanu Neal, good safety, not denying that, but coming off of an injured season, making $9.75 million.
That's like the franchise tag. That's basically the franchise tag.
Franchise tag, not through this year, not through next year, not through the year after that, through 2023.
Whoa.
He's a safety making as much money as the top safeties in the league that you can get in free agency. So you're not gaining any value here. Best case scenario, Neal plays out of his mind and justifies that contract for a year. That is the best case scenario. There's all sorts of scenarios where he doesn't end up living up to that, and you're stuck with like $40 million long term on the books for this guy. So I know that contract shouldn't factor in too much to a team that's rebuilding, but I don't think this team is rebuilding. They seem to be going for it. And even if they were rebuilding, that's too long-term of a commitment for Keanu Neal. So just the severe negative of those 2 contracts is why I think that Khalil won that trade. Yeah,
I mean, and I don't think it's that. Like, I definitely think those are some rough contracts. But the position that the team is in, I don't think it hurts Hokage all that much. The only thing that might have come out of this is if he waited a bit to see what Kareem Hunt's value was, but then you can see that kind of going both ways because there's still teams that need running backs.
I'm sorry, you say it doesn't hurt him too much? Have you looked at his starting running backs?
No. I mean, I'm talking about from Hokage's point of view.
No, I know. So am I. Have you looked at his starting running backs now that he's traded Kareem Hunt?
No, he's not trying to compete, is what I mean. Kareem Hunt doesn't help him in a rebuild.
I didn't know that if he's rebuilding, why does he have Keenan Allen and AJ Green on his roster?
That's true. That's true. I'm not quite sure what he's doing then. what he's planning to do with his team. I assumed it was rebuilding. I assumed it was and that's what discussions I've had with him have indicated. So yeah, if he's not trying to rebuild and trying to fight in that division, well, good luck to him.
Well, maybe he is rebuilding and he's just waiting for someone to need a wide receiver, i.e., oddly enough, Khalil, who we just traded with and didn't. I mean, Khalil got Sammy Watkins, but I feel this would have made more sense if he traded Keenan Allen or something and just got a little more in return, but.
Yeah, I think it's just too expensive for Khalil right now.
Yeah, I guess he gave away those contracts to afford Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, I know that Khalil was trying to see if we could have made a deal because I had expensive wide receivers on sale, and he just couldn't think of anything because all of mine were making over 20 mil. So even to get Sammy Watkins, he had to shed his biggest salaries to do so. So I think at the end of the day, it was about the pick, but it is a bit bizarre if Derek has so many big contract wide receivers that he paid for. That's not a rebuild move.
So the other thing that happened, just worth briefly discussing, is the signing of Marcus May. May had a big game week 1. He got a pick, he got 2 sacks, 7 tackles, 2 fast defense. Giant game for a safety, no doubt about that. Khalil gave this guy who hadn't previously done anything, though, based on this one game, $4.15 million.
Whoa.
This is not
as blind waiver. There's no way anyone was going to go that high.
Yeah, no, I don't know what second bid was. I bid somewhere around like $800,000-$900,000. But Khalil has sort of a history of this. Like, this is where like the Jamison Crowder contract, but also the MVS contract came out of.
Mm-hmm.
Khalil signed MVS to like $5 million over several years based on 3 catches in 1 game in training camp. So
he saw something special.
So similarly, this seems like a bit of an overreaction to Marcus May. I mean, I know Khalil's thought on this is, well, maybe he turns into an all-star, and he's not doing anything with his money, so why not sign him? I get that, and I get overpaying a bit for him. But at $4.1 million, you can't get value out of him. Say he turns into an all-star. What are you going to do? Extend him for 1 year at best? Because if you're extending him for 2 years, you're paying him as though he's like a free agent anyway. So there's not really a lot you can do with this at this point. If he had said, like, I think he's worth about $1 million, I'll give him 2, I could see that. Because then you could extend him for 2 years at like, $4.5 million and maybe get some value out of him. But when he's making $4 million, there's not a lot of extension possibility here.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what the play is.
And you can only the amount of time you can have a player for and out of waiver is what, 2 years? You said?
This year is just 1 year. His contract's over at the end of the year, and then you need to re-sign him. Yeah,
and then if you have to re-sign him, it's going to be re-signing him for something so massive. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so that definitely hurts. I don't know, man. It's definitely I bid there. I bid $950. I thought that would have been plenty.
Who knows?
Apparently, it wasn't.
I thought someone would be like $1 million just to get it to a guaranteed contract, but yeah, 4 is way more than I was anticipating. All right, well, the final thing we have to do with FOMFA then is go over our projections for this week.
Hold on, I think Chris is making a good point. Wasn't it Luis that gave those big contracts?
Yes.
You were saying Khalil did.
If I did, I misspoke. I was saying specifically this is something not new for Luis. He gave MVS this deal, and like we've been
I think you were making it sound like Khalil. You said Khalil signed May.
No. Clearly the ice line is getting to me.
Yep, it was Khalil. It was Luis. I was thinking that too as I was going in, but maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was a trade that was made, but yeah. Anyways.
I don't know how I'm going to be after drinking a bottle of ice wine.
That's a lot of ice wine.
I have so much ice wine because no one likes sweet wine. So I have like 6 bottles of it, and no one wants it. So I was like, you know what? I'll just drink, like $40 of wine tonight.
The funny thing is you can keep ice wine way longer than others open. That's kind of the point. But you're just pounding it back. All right, let's get to the projections because I do actually have to leave at a certain point, and that took way longer than I thought it would. So, should we put up the projections?
Let's do it.
Is this the right one? This is the right one. There you go. So, FOMFA projections.
Oh, wrong one. Oh no, that's the right one.
That's the right one.
Okay, sorry.
Easy on the ice wine. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So I don't really know what changed here. The biggest thing, like we discussed it before, is Cotton is now the division favorite.
Yeah, which was very interesting. That changes things.
It's a big one there. David's only making the playoffs 3 out of 10 simulations. That is not looking good for him.
This takes into account the injury?
Yes.
Okay,
but
so that's
not,
big.
not well. So ideally, how it would take it into account is you have a few weeks of Michael Thomas getting 0 and then back to full. It doesn't have that degree of ability. It's looking at remaining season points. So Michael Thomas will have fewer points over the season, and that'll be distributed amongst all the games. So
I see. Okay.
it's not perfect, but it does take it into account.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Still the most competitive division. I think you and Cloud to Ground stayed pretty similar at being 10-3, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
I dropped a win, which is to be expected. Turret Rock's still the favorite there. A little surprised that Colorado and Team Marines are still just 7-6. I thought one of them would differentiate themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
not super surprised though. I guess they both have gaps. Team Colorado probably takes a few hits based on depth. Team Marines based on like not having as much of the firepower up front.
Yeah, the Colorado depth is really going to hurt them once it comes to the bye weeks. Once again, they're going to rack up all the losses there, so they need to get a huge lead going.
But basically dead even on these make playoffs, win division, make finals percentages, which is really interesting even in terms of earnings. Colorado edging it out just by a little bit. Probably still very much favored over the other side and Woodson division, with Jayville being the kind of the strongest team.
Very close with them. The 6-7 versus 7-6, like there's a very small difference.
Yeah.
The points scored, Jayville's actually a little better than Team Marines is, a little worse than Colorado. But overall, their odds are all pretty similar.
Yeah, Jayville's right in there. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But in that division, clearly Warriors division remains Warriors division, and it'll come down to Jayville. Maybe Hokic can make a little push there, but it's probably going to be Jayville, Colorado Marines fighting it out for that wild card.
One of the interesting things you could see is the impact of not having depth on Colorado, where their point scored is expected to be the exact same, if not slightly better than Turret Rock's, but Turret Rock is getting 2 extra wins because he's not scoring all his points in a few games, and scoring no points in other games. Yeah, so it just helps them out in the simulations.
Yeah, something that Colorado definitely needs to address at some point, but always ends up with these big contracts or a spread of decently sized contracts that doesn't allow for any depth. And also moving his picks. So a lot of the cheaper productive players, he doesn't have the opportunity to get. Okay.
Well, let's move on to our picks for this week, I guess.
Okay. Let's see. We've got. I haven't scored them, but we can put them side by side and go through and figure out who did what. Let me pull it up. So we have, let's start with Turndown for Watt versus Fort Myers. Turndown for Watt was favored by 55.
55, you say?
55. You said, I said that Khalil would cover.
Khalil did not cover.
Khalil did not cover. So that is a point for Phil and a 0 for Jam. So we'll score this live.
I think we did well on this. We'll see.
All right, next up, Raw Mexico versus Cotton. Mexico was favored by 14. I said that he would. He said he wouldn't, so that goes the same way. Ryan won that game. Another point for Phil. Not starting out good for me here.
Not starting well.
Death Valley versus Lucas Shies. Death Valley was favored by 25. We both said Death Valley would cover that.
Both lost.
We both lost. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, guy who set the lines. All right, Cobras Marines. Cobras was favored by 5 points. We both said Cobras would cover.
They did not.
They did not. So I'm not getting anything here.
I was going to say, at least the ones that I'm missing, you missed on too.
Well, I mean, we had the same pick. Turret Rocks versus me. Turret Rocks favored by 40. Both of us saying Turret Rocks would cover, and I believe they did.
Successfully, yes.
Sweet. Then we got Sandwich versus Wario. Wario favored by 70. I think we both said that Wario would cover that.
I certainly did. I remember specifically saying 70 is a big fucking number.
Yeah, I think we both went the other way. Sorry. I think we both went the other way.
Down the picks.
So we did just fine there. More points our ways. So I'm not gaining on you still. Okay, Hokage versus Jayville. Hokage favored by 27. Is that right?
Yeah, I remember definitely taking Jayville, and this was my lock of the week.
And I took Jayville too. So we both get a point, but you get the extra point for the lock. And then Sixes versus Cloud to Ground. Sixes favored by 2 points.
And only won by 0.6.
Yeah, so we both get nothing here.
Oh, did you take me too? I thought you took Cloud to Ground.
I took I did take Cloud to Ground.
Yeah, so it was with the margin between me winning but me not covering the spread.
Yeah. All right. And I had what did I do? I had David as my shoe-in, son of a bitch, so I get a 0 there. All right, so thus far you scored this week. You scored what was that? 6 points, including your lock of the week, and I had 4. So taking out the early lead. I think this is how it happened last year too. So let's see how it all works out.
All right, and going forward into week 2 projections or
week 2 projections. So I've got them pulled up here. First game will be you versus Death Valley. You have been favored by 80 points.
I take Death Valley.
Yeah, I take Death Valley too. Death Valley didn't look too bad.
80 points?
80 points is massive. Jeez. That's like an insta call. Then we got Hokage favored by 47 against Sandwich. I'm gonna take Sandwich to cover.
47. Yeah, that's a lot. I'm also going to go with Sandwich. I don't think the teams are that different.
Yeah. Now we got Wario versus Jayville. Wario favored by 38.
I mean, Jayville's team's not that. Allen Robinson, Adam Thielen, DK Metcalf. I mean, Wario's a good team, but I think I'm going to go Jayville. I don't think Wario beats them by 38.
You know Jayville?
I'm going to go with Jayville.
I don't know if this is just because we've been voting the same way, but I'm going to go with Wario. I believe that Jayville has a shot here, but just to mix it up, I'm going to say Wario. Okay, me versus Marines. Marines favored by 37. I'm going to go ahead and say... So if I don't I think that it's going to be within 37. So what does that make it for me? That I'm picking myself.
Yeah, you're picking yourself to not lose by at least 37.
Yeah.
Are you planning on fixing Devontae Parker when he doesn't play?
He's still questionable, but yes, I am. I'm not gonna. I'm sure. I will every week put up a competitive effort. I'm not gonna try to not give a shit about it.
You know what? With Golladay likely trending towards not playing again, in my view, Corey Davis now again going to be the number 1 option this week. Solid looking defense. I think Team Marines can cover. I'm going to go with Team Marines.
Okay. All right. I get Cobras. What's that?
Your team looks bad.
I know. It's supposed to look bad. I'm not going to feel bad about it. Cobras versus Turret Rocks. Cobras favored by 9.
Cobra's favored by 9.
Yeah, so I think I'm picking first, and I'm going to say Turret Rock covers.
I thought I was, but I think I'm going to probably also say, but those running backs are so bad.
Yeah. I'm instantly going with Turret. This might have been a mistake, but I've already gone.
Cortland Sutton come back. I mean, this is one of those things where Colorado is good until they're not.
Yeah.
I haven't injured their team yet.
There's any time for Colorado to win, it's right now.
Nah, I'm still going Turret Rocks.
All right, 0-0. Can I switch mine? I'm actually starting to think. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go with Colorado. Go with Colorado.
All right, I'll go with Colorado. Might regret it, but I'll go with Colorado. Clap the Ground versus Lucas Shives. Clap the Ground favored by 70. I know what I'm picking. You let me know.
Yeah, that's too much. It's too much. I'm picking Louis.
Yeah, I am in agreement. All right, Turn Down for Watt versus Cotton. Very interesting game. Turn Down for Watt favored by 12 points. I guess it's me who chooses first on this one. I went against Ryan last week. I'm going to go with Ryan this week. I'm going to say Ryan covers it.
Okay, this is one of the ones where I'm actually looking into the matchups. Because I think this is going to be a tough call here. How much is Khalil favored by?
It's 12. Close game.
I think he'll do it. I'm hoping Ryan wins, but I'm betting on Khalil in this one.
Okay, all right. Final game of the week, Ron Mexico's Avocados versus Fort Myers. Ron Mexico favored by 30.
Yeah, I'm taking Ron Mexico.
Yeah, I think I'm taking Ron Mexico too. Even with the injuries and all, I think I'm taking Ron Mexico. All right.
I did my lock first, so you can start off this time.
All right. My shoe-in is going to be I think I'm going to go with one of the massive ones. You versus Death Valley.
I was considering that too, but you know what? I'm going to go with Ron Mexico to cover as my lock.
Ooh, look at that. Give some love to David. I like it.
I just got to hope he doesn't do something stupid, like start Michael Thomas if he's doubtful or something.
All right. So those are our picks. Let me pull this off here.
Oh, why is he starting Jimmy Graham? Don't start Jimmy Graham, David. Don't do it.
It's too late.
It's not too late. You can fix this. Put in Reagor or Sims or something. Don't put in Jimmy Graham as your flex.
Well, that's all right, Chris. You're in rebuild. And Galladay ruled out. I think that's the right call. Yeah. All right. Well, we have reached 7 o'clock. That was the time I was supposed to be driving to my in-laws. So we might have to actually split episode 4 into 2 parts.
Laugh comes later.
So I'm very sorry to Ben Waffle people, or Ben Wyatt people, Ben Waffle. Jesus. I do have to jump and go to the in-laws, but we will rock out on Ben Waffle, I guess ahead of the games, and do episode 4 part 2.
All right. Apologies and see everyone later.
Sorry, this is on me. My apologies, guys. We got real deep into those game analysis. It was fun.
You told me to shut the fuck up, Jay.
No, I didn't even realize the time was going by, and I was like, "Holy shit, we've already reached an hour and a half." So yeah, yes, I know we'll get more content. Sorry, it's just what am I supposed to do?
What fucking pog? I don't.
So look at this gaming terminology. Anyways, thanks everyone. We'll see you real soon. It's not going to be a full week because we're going to get into Ben Waffle predictions before the game start on Sunday. So thanks everybody, and heart to you too, Chris. See you guys later.
Later.